That's that one. So I need to go to Facebook, wherever Facebook was. There we go. Copy. Get rid of that. Take that up to there. Copy. Then I go to here. Paste that. Then I go to Facebook. This. Actually, I just need to be on labor front. Labor front. This. Copy. Then I go to here. Paste. Go live. Hey, Kathy, if you and your campaign manager want to jump in, go ahead and hit your link and I'll let you in. We can have a couple minutes to chit chat before the show starts. Okay, see you in a minute. Yes, ma'am. Hey, Kathy.
Okay, do we have sound?
Can't hear you.
Okay.
Try that.
Can
There,
you
I
hear me
got
now?
you. Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
I got it. All
that
right.
is the lawnmower of my neighbor.
Good. What was your campaign manager's name?
Taylor Jackson. I am not sure she's going to be coming on tonight or this afternoon.
Okay.
She might. I don't know. I haven't heard from her, so she just sent me the
Right.
link and stuff.
Okay. Well, as we discussed on the phone, I really want to just keep this as easy as we can. And I started to do a little research, then got busy today and didn't get into it. You will probably have more answers and stuff anyway. But like one of the things I was looking at one point in the not too recent past, the 8th Congressional District was one of the poorest congressional districts in the entire nation.
Yes, it still is.
And I believe that it has some counties that are like Ellington County, or I'm sorry, Reynolds County.
Reynolds,
Right, used to be one of the absolute poorest counties in the entire nation.
it's been surpassed by Shannon County now.
And Shannon's again in the 8th Congressional District.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I think what my thoughts were is that I'd like for you to, tell us who you are, what encouraged you to get into the race. I don't know if I don't remember if you had a labor background. I know you're with the college and you were a professor of sociology.
No, not.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm a clinical social worker and a trauma and addiction counselor.
Okay. Well, I was close. Not
Close.
really. Anyway, you can talk about some of that stuff, but when we talk about the 8th Congressional District, there are literally towns in that district. Ellington comes to mind, where it is 60 to 65 miles to the nearest hospital.
Yes,
And,
it's generally, there are many places that it takes 2 hours to get to the nearest hospital. So good luck if you have a heart attack,
right.
So yeah, the hospital in Ellington closed a while back, and we're continuing with that. So it's critical. And I did a little bit of research on Jason Smith. He came into office in 2013 after Joanne Emerson decided she wasn't going to want to be in office.
Right.
And he basically, his mission was to deregulate as much as he possibly could. And he went in with it being the 11th poorest, and he's still in. And he also said that that we are less free if we let the rich people, if we send their tax money to the poor people. He said that's un-American. So his idea is just, we're going to just let them die and see what happens.
Right. Right. This is all stuff that that I think is great to talk about on the show. We got about 2 minutes before it'll start. And I don't know how many viewers we get. I want to make sure that, it's recording. I want to make sure that we record it. And you can share it to whatever groups you want. And once it's done, we'll share it around. My interview with Yinka Folity has gotten over 1,000 views by now. So
great.
We're doing our best to spread the word. Anyway, but the 8th Congressional District at one time was flush with cash. If we go back a generation, I went to high school down in Sikeston, Missouri. I know the 8th Congressional District better than any other congressional district in the state, probably. Mm-hmm. And we look and see where we were then and where we're at today, and it's been under Republican control. Who was the last Democrat to hold the 8th? I'm trying to remember.
Well, that's back in the days before they had done all the gerrymandering. Actually, Dick Gebhardt was one of the last ones that did the upper 8th. And then there were a couple of people that had 2 other pieces of it. So that when it came together as one great big rural area, that's when things changed. But, the thing about it is when Gebhardt went in, he would have one fundraiser, raise millions of dollars, and give it to all the down ballot candidates. That's how they kept it going, you know.
Right, right. Well, it's, there's been a lot of changes in it. I keep wanting to think that it may have been Bill Burleson.
Yeah, he was there. He was there for a while too. Yeah, I think he kind of took it over after Gebhardt was switched to another area. Yeah.
Right. I thought I had remembered something about that, but anyway, but I'd like to find out or ask you, and I'm not going to put you on the spot with any questions. I do not want to hear you say I don't know, so I'll gently do it right now. We got about a minute. Like, what legislation has Jason Smith worked on, passed, sponsored and passed, that would benefit the residents of the 8th Congressional District? Would be a question that I'll ask.
Yeah, that's a good one, because there's no answer to that one other than nothing. He didn't even vote for the CARES Act to go to the 8th District.
Right. So we're getting ready to go live. Takes me a second to figure out how to do this. Let's see here. All right. All right, here we go.
Okay.
All right, technical difficulty here for just a second.
Okay.
I need one of the grandkids here to teach me how to do this. Is that not the way it goes?
That's the way it goes.
There
Yeah.
it is. All right, I got you. We're streaming live now. So we're talking about your race for the 8th Congressional District. You are Catherine Ellis. Would you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, I was born in Jefferson County. I grew up in House Springs, and I have been I'm a 6th generation in this area, so I know the area pretty well. And I have been a clinical social worker and a trauma and addictions counselor for over 40 years. And so I decided to run for office in 2018. I attended the March on Washington, and I felt very compelled to try to do something for my district, which is the 8th District, and it unfortunately continues to be the 11th poorest district in the country. And so I was very aware from the perspective of being a clinician about what some of the issues were with the individuals that live in the district. But I also am very aware that from the perspective of being the vice chair of a community health center here in Jefferson County. So I see it from a couple of different angles. I grew up in a union family. My grandmother was one of the folks that and my grandfather went through the Depression and were very poverty stricken, lived in Marys County for quite some time. And then they began to be a part of the New Deal. And so my grandmother did a lot of work with other people that needed to learn how to sew. And ultimately, when they opened a post office in House Springs, she became a postal clerk. So she was one of the folks that was really very instrumental in getting that union going. My sister-in-law was a paramedic, and she was a union paramedic. My brother was a police officer, and he was in the union. And my spouse is a teacher who belongs to a union. So I'm very familiar with a variety of different unions in my family. So I decided to run. And I'm very glad that I did. I believe that the people in the 8th District deserve better than what they've got. And I want to be the one that's going to flip that district.
Good. Well, you've had an interesting background, and you've worked with the social issues for many, many years, so you can see the trends and how it's been going. Can you name any legislation that Congressman Smith has passed that would benefit the residents of the 8th Congressional District?
I cannot, because basically there really hasn't been any legislation. Even in the most recent vote that happened when we were first starting to get the CARES Act together to deal with the coronavirus, he voted against it because he didn't think he had enough time to read it. So it was, oh, I've lost you, there you go. It was, I think, that was a real slap in the face to a lot of people in the district, that even their own congressman wouldn't help them and support them. So he has basically deregulated as much as he possibly can. He is supported by a lot of dark money. And we're running a campaign that is totally grassroots. And because of that, we've had about 46 different states that have had people that have contributed to our campaign. And we have been had some national recognition from endorsements, so we're really happy about that. And we've got some people that from those organizations that are really helping on our campaign now. So we're really very hopeful that we'll be able to make some changes so that we can get this district in the hands of somebody that really wants to take care of it and care about it and knows what some of the issues are.
Good. Well, I think that you would absolutely fit that bill. For the record, I am a resident of the 8th Congressional District, lifelong resident of the 8th Congressional District, went to high school down in Sikeston, Missouri, still have family in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. So I'm pretty aware and familiar with how things have gone in the 8th Congressional. It wasn't that many years ago that the 8th Congressional was flush with cash and was one of our nation's wealthier congressional districts. And now we're at the bottom of the heap. And one thing that I think we can attribute that to is the loss of manufacturing. And, you know, Kennett, Missouri, down in southeast Missouri, used to have an Emerson factory where they made electric motors. Sikeston, Missouri had Noranda Aluminum, and I believe that's in the process of being closed if it hasn't closed already.
Mm-hmm.
They had a copper wire factory. There's all kinds of industry in the 8th Congressional that is there no more. Jason Smith's approach on trade has been to support Trump 100%, and any free trade bill that comes along, he's been horrible when it comes to trade and manufacturing. What are your thoughts on bringing back manufacturing and good paying jobs?
Well, you know, I have this fantasy that I would love to see it become a reality. And the reality that we're dealing with is that I think the success of the 8th District up to a point was because it was in Democratic leadership that were very pro-labor. And I can remember a time even in Jefferson County where I live, where it was solidly blue. And we had all kinds of folks were working in the trades. They were labor people. And when they gerrymandered it in 2010, they divided that county, Jefferson County, into 3 congressional districts and basically broke up all of the union vote. And that has trickled down into the entire region, in particularly in Cape Girardeau. They tend to have, I think they're on the trend where they may be having a few more people that are going to be union workers there. But again, we need the jobs. So I am for infrastructure work that we can do throughout this country. I think we need a new deal for our rural areas, and that needs to include that we have manufacturers that are going to be working in the district, and we have people that are going to be trained for specific tasks to be a part of that larger infrastructure plan. And that's the only way that we're really going to save the district at this point, at least from an economic standpoint. Because what I have observed over my lifetime is that the 8th District has given and given and given and given and got nothing in return. And so now we're dealing with high suicide rates. We're dealing with, high opioid crisis. I mean, that's out of control. We are dealing with a fully 1/4 of the district being food insecure, meaning that kids have to go home with a backpack of food in order to feed their families from school. Our schools are deteriorating.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. Well, I was going to say there's actually a bigger picture than that. The household median income for the 8th Congressional District lags behind the rest of the state in household median income. You and I were talking before we went live. There's areas in the 8th Congressional District, like Ellington, where it's a 65 or 70 mile drive to the nearest hospital.
Right.
And yeah, could you speak on that for a minute, please?
Yeah, it's a major crisis as far as hospitals are concerned, because one of the things that we've been doing is we've been doing forums on specific topics, and we started doing them live, and we'd have 100 people show up easily. We were in Iron County for our first one, and what they wanted was a healthcare forum. And they were afraid that their hospital was going to close at that time. Fortunately, they negotiated a deal, and for the time being, it's still open. But they didn't want to be like the rest of the district, where Reynolds County has closed, and you're looking down in the Sykeston area. All of those places were having the loss of any kind of health care. And so unless you're wealthy enough to have insurance or be able to pay for a helicopter to get you to the nearest hospital when you have a heart attack, you're pretty much out of luck. Not only are you dealing with the fact that there's not any health care that's available, but you're dealing with the transportation issue, which you may have to drive over roads that twist and turn and go across a gravel road, and they might have a bridge out. And so the infrastructure is in such a terrible manner right now that you might not be able to get that done whether you had a car or not. So right. It's alarming to me how little my opposition, Jason Smith, has paid any attention to that. He finally somehow posted something about 3 months ago that said, "Oh, we have a crisis of hospitals in the district." I'm like, yes, you do, and you haven't done anything about it. And so, one of the things that I know as being part of a community health center is that what we've done in Jefferson County, we have put in 4 of our school districts, we have primary care, dental care, behavioral health, and drug and alcohol services. The kids go down, they get their services at school. The schools love it because the kid doesn't have to leave and lose the revenue that they get for having that kid in school. And it's open to the public in the afternoons and evenings. And so that's a model where we have in district, we have about, I think it's 18 or 19 sites where you might have dentistry, or you might have primary care, you might have some behavioral services, but they're not comprehensive. And so part of any infrastructure needs to include having those resources, whether they're in the schools or in another building. It's going to need somebody that knows what they're doing to build it out. So, we have an opportunity here to really connect education and healthcare and labor to get something done on a very, very large scale that will bring an economic, probably one of the best economic measures that could occur in that area.
Right. Well, you were talking about education, and I was actually on a meeting with John Keeney. He's a candidate for state rep in the 3rd Congressional District. But we were talking, and he had a very good forum. And one of the things that was discussed the main topic was education, but one of the things that was discussed is it's extremely hard to get any companies or businesses to move into an area where they don't have a solid education, where people know how to read a tape measure or blueprints, or be able to understand and process what it takes to do some of that work. So having a strong education system is excellent. With your background, I think that would be a wonderful addition for the 8th Congressional. So
it's so important. I mean, I think we need to look at those 3 things, infrastructure and and jobs and healthcare, and because we need all of the people that are going to be a part of that. And I really am a strong proponent of making sure that teachers are paid adequately, that we've got good, strong unions, that we have everything that we need in order to create a good economy in this entire state, not just the district. Unfortunately, our legislature seems to think that we can just give everybody tax credits, that's going to take care of the problem. Well, the reality of it is we're sinking to the bottom like a rock in every category. And so it's really time that we begin to see that what you want to look for in a candidate is you want to see where they are in the issues. And I know that a lot of people are very frustrated with the Democratic Party. I'm frustrated with the Democratic Party because, we don't get any help at all from the Democratic Party. And so, we're basically told, well, if you're a congressional candidate, you're on your own. Okay, well, we'll do what we can do. But the reality of it is, that whole region has been left behind by way too many people. And it's time that they start to get into being a part of something again. And I would say that to all the listeners that, you know, it's like, if you're frustrated with the people that are in a party, vote them out. And if you like what someone has to say that is really good on all the issues that are of value to you, that's the person that you need to pay attention to. If you have any questions about how are they going to do as a congressman or a legislator, find out where they're getting their money. And I'll tell you exactly what they're going to do with it. They're going to do exactly what that person that gave them the money is going to do. If you have somebody that's running as a just a person that's, you know, trying to raise money to have a campaign, they'll be able to tell you what they stand for too. And it's not big business and it's not dirty money.
Right. Well, I think one of the reasons that I created this Labor Front Facebook group is as a union leader and a union activist for most of my adult life, I have run across the fact that throughout these most recent elections, too many of our members seem to have a hard problem differentiating between the Republican and the Democratic parties.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard over and over out on our plant floor that there's no difference in the political parties. They're both two wings of the same bird. They both feed from the same corporate troughs. And to a point, that's correct. But when you get past some of the cream and you start looking at the milk, you start finding out that there's some really big differences. And one of the differences that I see off and on, or see all the time, is I'm on Jason Smith's email list. I see all the rhetoric that comes out on a weekly basis with his updates, and his support for anti-worker issues like right to work. Right to work is one of the things that if it came up to be signed, he'd be a rubber stamp for Trump across the board, basically.
Yeah.
And that would be horrible for organized labor. What's your position on right to work?
Well, you know, I was in the hall, in the Steelworkers Hall, when we found out that we had kicked that to the curb. And I will tell you, that was one of the most exciting parts of my campaign from the last time, because I've known so many people and knocked on a lot of doors, and, you know, we did it. We pushed, and we can do it again, because they're going to keep bringing that right to work up every time. And I'm very afraid of what they're doing at the national level. And I will tell you right now, I will fight that with every breath in my body, because we know what works. My family was a recipient of that history in the labor movement, and was able to crawl out of really dire straits at times and be a part of the middle class. We need that again. We need strong labor, and we need a strong middle class. And if we've got that, there is nothing that we can't do.
I agree, and we go hand in hand. I mean, the organized labor and manufacturing have been the backbone of the country. There's a lot of people that will be on this that'll hear me say it. They've heard me say it before, and they'll hear me say it again. Our nation's economy was never in the shape it's in when General Motors was our #1 private employer.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's either Walmart or Amazon, whichever one's got the most going on.
Right.
But when you take all those $60,000 a year auto assembly jobs out of our economy and you replace them with $20,000 a year Walmart jobs, you lose economic stimulus on $40,000. That is literally the household median income in the 8th Congressional District, and that's money lost.
Yes.
Earlier you were talking about Jefferson County and how it used to be blue. We had 2 auto assembly plants. We had hundreds, maybe thousands of members that lived in Jefferson County.
Yes.
And when they shut those plants down, they left, and it creates a huge vacuum.
Absolutely.
So I agree with everything you said. We have to have strong manufacturing and strong unions. You talked a little bit about education. You've talked a little bit about labor unions. One thing that's really been a hot topic lately is the actions that have gone on up in Minneapolis.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if there's federal legislation about holding some of the police departments accountable. Look, I don't want to make this a thing like we're bashing cops.
Right.
There are a very small percentage of the cops are bad. And I get that. I don't think anybody would argue with that. But there's got to be a way to start holding them accountable for their actions.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's horrible to know that in today's society, if you're African American or you're from the LGBTQ community, or you're from the Muslim or anything like that, or Asian, that you have got to always be looking out over your shoulder. This discrimination, racism, harassment,
Right.
it all has to end. What would your thoughts be about legislation on a national level to try to put an end to some of that, or at least try to curb it?
Yeah. You know, my observation of all of those kinds of way too many of those exchanges that have occurred over the years is when we began to arm our police officers as if we were arming the military, meaning all of the surplus stuff that they brought back from the first Gulf War and then turned it over to the police departments. I think what it did, it gave them a permission to act like the military who invades. And you know, all is fair in war. So I think that became the mentality. I think that's something that has to change. Now, one of the things that is a little bit different in how I view it is, I know that being a police officer, and you know, I speak with, you know, a lot of connection to my brother with this. He died when he was 39 years old, and he was extremely depressed, and he was the classic example of someone that was really impacted by the traumatic events that he dealt with every day and the decisions that he needed to make. And I know that so many police officers have to deal with that trauma as well. And when you have a traumatized teenager who is afraid that he's going to get his head blown off because he's Black or he's Asian or whatever, and you have a traumatized police officer, you have a fire that starts. And so I'm very much to begin to have the opportunity for these men and women to have the help that they need if they're struggling with any trauma, because it's going to influence every decision that they make. But on the other hand, we need to have standards that are going to be uniform and come down from the federal level about how we behave consistently under those circumstances, and what you do and what you don't do, and the consequences for if you cross that line. Because it looks like there's a lot of bravado that's a part of that. I say that, I look at that, and I see that somebody who's afraid and wants to take the upper hand and deal with it in a way that's not productive and not reasonable. So I think I want to look at it from a couple of different angles, and I think that we need to have the resources that police officers and their departments can deal with the mental health issues.
I agree with everything that you just said. I'm going to add this to it. As a nation, we're better than that.
Yes.
We're better than what's going on, and we're better than, and we will overcome it. But we're not going to do it just waiting for the next accident or incident. I shouldn't say accident. There was nothing accidental about it. Waiting for the next incident like this to happen. If we don't start taking a proactive approach to it, we're as guilty as the people committing the crimes. That's just my opinion on that.
Yes. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I mean, we are all responsible. And I think that unfortunately during this administration, the fear and the hatred and the discriminatory behavior that has been released as a result of this current president and his minions, which includes Jason Smith, I think that it has let that out. It has been simmering for some time. It is not reasonable, and it is not how we stay united as a country. And I think that it's very important for people to realize that we still, as you said, we're stronger together than we are separated. It is something that we need to start to take to heart. And instead of pulling like this, we need to pull together and put in office the people who are going to honorably serve in whatever position that is, to make sure that the entire country has what they need to survive, not just survive, but also to thrive.
I think that's an excellent point. One of my members from Local 2250 in Wentzville had a question or a comment. His comment is maybe we should be looking for ways to have yearly stress tests for the police officers to make sure that they're feeling okay about the job that they're doing and things like that. I think that's an excellent point.
I think that's absolutely. I would say that it needs to be probably even twice a year, because you never know. You know what we know from the literature and from the science. We know that the more trauma that you've had, the more you will tend to act out from it. And so if you have 6 episodes where, you have to deal with whatever the situation is, maybe it's the first time that the police officer ever sees a dead body, that may traumatize him, so that all of those things that happen beyond that, he or she will then become very sensitized to sounds, to noise, be reactive. If you intervene at that point when that happens, then you have a much higher success rate of getting that out of his brain or her brain, and realizing that, wait a minute, that was something I observed. I don't have to keep reliving it.
Right. Well, those are all excellent points. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Well, I think this is a time of reckoning for us, and we are in a position where we're dealing with this virus. We have really no information about how long it's going to last. We don't know what the right information is versus the wrong information. Everybody's got an idea. And typically what the United States has done is it has pulled together during times of crisis. I think we have an opportunity to continue to pull together and begin to work across the aisle. I mean, I think that's extremely important. And, one of the things, we got rid of, all of the earmarks and the pork belly stuff. But the part of that I think we need to have again, that was the way that people communicated across the aisle. Well, if you need a bridge in your county and I need a school in my county, can't we put it together and get it done?
Right.
And that was yes. So, we got rid of that. And I'm thinking, you got to have something. I've worked a lot with couples who are usually on their way to divorce by the time they get into my office. And I tell them, I said, okay, here's the deal. If you're going to work on this, both of you are not going to get what you want, but you want to find the one thing that you can work on together so that you will get something. And I think that same philosophy goes along with how you would negotiate with somebody across the aisle to get something done, because we haven't gotten much done for a very long time.
I agree. And then we have another comment on the gun issue, or actually a question on the gun issue. And I may get it wrong, so bear with me. The National Institute of Health has been trying to do studies on gun violence, and the NRA has been blocking that for decades. Would you support the National Institute of Health in their quest to have a study on gun violence and the effects of it on society?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have been designated as a gun sense candidate by the Moms Demand group. I'm a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. I don't think anybody wants to take anybody's guns away, but we need to have common sense gun laws. And along with that, we need to have the research that supports what we're saying. And so I'm very much of the mind that, we need to stop shooting our own children in our own homes. We need to, have the lessons that kids learn early on in their lives. The
Right.
idea of what the NRA was to be an educational organization that didn't morph into this political thing. My dad was an NRA member from the time I can remember. And when he started to see it moving into a more of a political thing, he resigned from the organization. He said, I'm not doing this. This is not going to be good. And he was right.
Right. It's turned into nothing but a political arm of the Republican Party.
Exactly.
And it's a wedge issue. It's a wedge issue for those of us in organized labor. And as a gun owner myself, someone that grew up in rural Missouri, I take a little bit of offense to the fact that a lot of them don't believe that liberals or Democrats or progressives, whatever they want to call us, own guns, which is just a fallacy on its own.
Yeah.
One last thing. I'll give you the last word. Is there anything you'd like to say?
Well, first of all, I'm very glad to be on your show today. I really appreciate this. This is one of the ways that we have to communicate now, since we can't go shake hands for a while.
Right.
So, I really, I want to be the kind of a candidate that is respectful of all points of view, but ultimately I want to be a candidate that represents the people. And so, I would certainly appreciate your support. If you live in the 8th District, I would be glad to have a phone conversation with you and anything else that you would need to talk to me about. That's the way that we need to connect as people that are running for office and to their constituents. So thank you for letting me be here. And it's good to see you again. Glenn, I don't know if you remember, the first place that I ever went was over in Crawford County,
I
and
remember.
that
Yep.
was the time I spoke. So I'm still here.
Yes, you did an excellent job. So last thing is that your website is ellisforcongress.com.
Yes.
I encourage all of our listeners, union members, friends, family, whether you live in the 8th Congressional District or not, to head over to her website and get to know a little bit more about her, and make sure you ask whatever questions. Kathy, thanks for coming on. You've been great. You obviously have my vote. I look forward to seeing you at one of your upcoming events when we can shake hands and do something in person. So
Or bump elbows.
bump elbows. There you go. Well, thanks for coming on. To all the listeners that were out there chimed in with some questions and comments. Thank you. You guys are what makes these things happen. And you ask questions that I may not think of. Kathy, you're a great candidate. Good luck to you.
Thank you so much. Have a good week.
Yes, ma'am. You as well. Stay safe.
All right. Bye-bye.